Okay, so to go back, yeah, thank you. I want to welcome everybody to Manhattan Community Board One's Transportation and Street Activity Permit Committee for March of 2023. I'm Betty Kay, the chair of the committee. Jess Coleman is on, the co-chair, and Onej James is here from the office at CB1. And we actually have a fairly full agenda of 6 items tonight. So let's try to move through it. And I want to see if the person here from Washington Street Market, Julia. Oh yeah, I forgot to check.
I believe so. Yes, we do have someone. It's not Julia, it is Rebecca.
Then with that identification, Anish, could she be moved over?
Yes. Rebecca, I just moved you over. You can unmute.
Okay, great. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Rebecca. This is Betty, and sorry for the wrong name being up here. So if you just want to introduce yourself and do your presentation.
Sure. My name is Rebecca, and that's okay. I just, we had a little bit of a change of plans because Julie is a bit tied up with our annual gala that's happening on Thursday. So my name is Rebecca. I'm a parent volunteer at Washington Market. This is my second year working on the street fair, and I actually presented the street fair to this committee last year as well. So excited to be back, and I hope not to take up too much of your time. I can quickly get into it if that's okay.
Sure.
Great. So right now we have a permit application out to SAPO for Saturday, June 3rd for the street fair. The street closure time would be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with setup from 9 to 11, the fair itself from 11 to 3, and then breakdown from 3 to 5 p.m. We've been doing the street fair since 1986. That was our first street fair, and Washington Market has been in the neighborhood and part of the community since 1976. So we've been doing this for a long time, and we're really excited to do it again this year. Last year was our first year back since COVID, and I think we all thought it was a really great success, and it brought together not just our school community, but a lot of the neighborhood community, a lot of kids from PS234 and just neighborhood kids had a really great time. So we were very happy with how it turned out. As per last year's event, we are able to do all of the same things that we agreed to last year, including hand delivering letters to all of the neighbors on Duane Street, inviting them to attend, introducing the school, both the businesses and the residents on the street. We are in communication with Friends of Duane Park. We're aware of all their rules and regulations and have gotten their okay for the event being on June 3rd. They have no conflicting events. They did last year, but we were able to make it work together. So this year should be even simpler. We will have our bathrooms available at 55 Hudson Street for all attendees to use, and there will be security at the site and someone from the school as well, letting people in. We will also have dedicated cleaners from our school supplier on site for the entirety of the fair, as well as afterwards, to make sure that we empty everything, all the garbage cans, get recycling properly, but we're supposed to go and have everything back to the way we found it once the fair wraps. And then as for security, we are working with our school supplier again this year, Global Operations Security Services, and we'll have at least 2, hopefully 3 security guards present on site to monitor activity at the school and at the street fair. And that's my spiel. If there's any questions, I can answer.
Right, yes, if any comments, I want you to people to, because I got to see this in advance.
Yeah.
Everything that we did ask for in last year's resolution has been agreed to again for this year. There were no complaints from last year. And in fact, since we have Carrie on the committee coming in from Friends of Duane Park, she can speak to that as well, because she's right there.
Yeah, and again, sorry for the background noise. No, we've been Friends of Duane Park and Washington Market. We're in communication earlier, and we have a good working relationship, and the Friends is comfortable with this year's schedule and the events, and we were happy with the condition in which they left the park last year. So we look forward to a successful event for them.
Great. Well, let me look to see if there's anyone in attendees that has a question. Otherwise, I see no hands raised. No, that's good. Then I'm going to move that we support this request for the street activity permit. And if I can get a second,
Second.
Second.
thanks. Then let's just do an affirmation vote. So you'll be assumed yes unless you tell me one of the other options. So are there any no's? Are there any recusals? Are there any abstentions? Unanimously passed? Thank you.
Thank you all so much. So excited for this fair this year.
Yeah, we're all excited and thank you for doing such a great job in the past.
Well, thank you for letting us.
Take care. Great. With that, we can move to and look to see we have the person from Bike New York.
One moment.
Well, obviously, I was going to say they have it on their with their name.
Hello,
Okay.
hello. This is sorry about that. I want to interrupt you. I don't know if I could hear right, but this is Jeremy Lockett from Bike New York, and I'm joined with my colleague Aldo. I don't know if you can have him as a panelist as well, but Devin couldn't make it tonight, so we are here.
Well, Aldo was actually moved, so I can
Great.
answer that question.
Perfect, perfect.
You can work in tandem and start your
Yeah.
presentation whenever you'd like.
Great. We did have a deck. We can bring that up, or we can kind of just go through what's going to be going on this year and a little bit about us. You tell us what's the preference.
I think visual always is helpful. So if you either want to handle it yourself and share screen, Jess will handle that. Otherwise, you can share this deck with him and he can show it on his screen.
Aldo, if you could do that, that would be huge.
Hi everyone. Yes, I can share the screen, or I can send the deck over, whatever is easier. Here, give me a second.
Well, Jess, I'll let you deal with Aldo on the choice.
Yeah, I stopped sharing, so you can either share or send it to me, whatever you want.
Okay, I can share. I see I have access now. You just see I have a lot of windows open. Oh, unfortunately, I can't share because I'm on the browser, so I'm gonna have to actually. We sent that over to you, Anjay. I don't know if maybe you can share it.
Let me see if I can
Yes.
as well. 1 second.
Okay.
So-
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, and again, this is another annual event and it is sponsored by the City of New York as well as Bike New York. So there should be no real surprises here. This is kind of a routine request for a street activity permit.
Correct.
Yeah, I can't seem to open it up on this end. Okay.
Okay, I'll share it.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank
that.
All right.
Hold on. Perfect. All right, I will kick it off, and thank you so much for opening up the deck. Again, this is Bike New York. My name is Jeremy Lockett. I am the manager of community outreach, joined by my colleague, and we'll do some introductions as well later on. We just wanted to talk a little bit about Bike New York, the TD 5 Borough Bike Tour, and what we're up to. I will say that I'm not too familiar with Community Board 1, but it's a pleasure being on this, and thank you for making the time. So we'll run through this pretty quickly, and then we are totally able to answer questions. Bike New York is a bike nonprofit here in New York City that operates in all 5 boroughs. We are basically our big, we promote bicycling, also safety and bicycling throughout the city. The 5 Borough Bike Tour is the world's biggest charitable donation initiative, and it funds all of our free programming from Learn to Ride initiatives, which basically service about 20 to 30,000 individuals a year. In 2019, we were able to teach close to 30,000 people how to learn how to ride a bike for free. It also, hold on, let me fix my camera. That's what's going on here. We were also able to fund our Bike Path program, which trains formerly incarcerated individuals to become bike mechanics and service the city bike fleet around New York City. This is one of the programs I'm most proud to talk about. I'm involved in it. It's really great. We'll be kicking off our first cohort of 20 individuals in April and basically go on from there. Last year marked our 100th participant in the Bike Path program, where folks begin at a part-time employment and move up from there. We can definitely chat more about that. It also funds our other programming here in the city. If you can mind just skipping the next slide, actually. Perfect. And then well, I'll give everyone a second maybe to read that. This is perfect. This year's quite special, I will say, and this is our 45th year in the tour, but also existing as a nonprofit in the city. So from the workforce development for formerly incarcerated individuals to the Learn to Ride classes for adults and children, we also kicked off an initiative. It's called the Asylum Seeker Bike Donation Program, where at the beginning of January, with the opening of the registration for the tour, we were able to announce that we'd be accepting donations, bike donations, to be repaired and then given to the hands of asylum seekers in New York City. And as many people may or may not know, is that there's close to about 40,000 asylum seekers that have come to New York City for all types of services. So whether it's legal, housing, we've stepped up in our capacity, and we were running basically this program through our Recycle a Bicycle shop. So we were able to partner with the Department of Transportation, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, the Mayor's Office. At our kickoff event, we had Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright there, and our other partners will be assisting in sort of what is that wraparound when it comes to getting a bike. We'll have helmets donated from the Department of Transportation, locks, and so all of these impact initiatives really come from the tour, and it's really been a pleasure. I will say whether it's working with an individual that's receiving a bike, to city partners, to community boards, local elected officials, it's been an absolute pleasure. And again, this marks our 45th year. And we're just excited to make it even better than the previous years. So I'll leave it off to Aldo, and then we can answer some more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. All righty, Anjay, if we can go on to the next slide, I'll go into logistics. I just want to start off by saying that we did submit our SAPO permit. It's identical to last year's. So again, set up hours at midnight on that Saturday, and then break down by 6:30 p.m. that afternoon. Just to get down to the details, we are on the way to reach our 32,000 participants for this year, same as last year. As you see here, these are our current numbers, and we are hoping to be at full capacity again. So we are expecting 32,000 folks to be back at the start line this year. I'm going to the next slide. So everything is staying the same. As you can see here, our start line basically is on Church and Franklin Street again. Again, with the mobile stage, we have staples we submitted for the VIP breakfast, the charity breakfast along the surrounding streets. And as you all know, we go all the way down from Church Street to Franklin Street, all the way to Battery Park. Go over to the next slide. Similar to last year, we're going to have city officials speak once again, and we do have speakers that are going to be placed. I know this was kind of a new element last year. Last year, we used 24 speakers to make that work for us, and then this year, we're actually toning it down based on our AV and key learnings from last year. So this year, we'll only be using 13 speakers. So hopefully that can help with mitigating sound, and we won't be too loud for everyone in the surrounding neighborhoods. This is just an overview basically on the layout from Church Street starting at Franklin to Battery Park. As you see here, we did submit all these SAPOs for all the streets where we corral our participants to enter to Church Street. So that'll all stay the same, along with some start times and arrival times for them. So that matches the timeline that we had last year as well. And here we just go a little bit into detail on when that starts. So our tour does start at 7:30, and we do expect everyone from the 6 waves to go through the start line by 11 o'clock, which is when we immediately start the breakdown, which should be done before 6 p.m. that afternoon. And we are providing another hotline this year. This is the number that anyone can reach us directly with any issues during the event day or setup times before. So if you guys have any questions or you want to share this number with anybody in the neighborhood, they can reach us directly at this number provided here. And thank you, everyone. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Look, I have to really thank you because for writing the resolution, it's gonna make it so easy. I had to leave some of the things to see the very logistical changes.
So good to hear.
Yeah, no, there were no real significant complaints at all last year, so that's good news. I also want
Awesome.
to thank you, since I don't really think, well, okay, I'll have Eric go soon. I want to thank you in advance for two things that you aren't going to see because they're later in the meeting. One of them is I give news and updates, and one is about your tweet about the very Bicycles for Immigrants that you were talking about program.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you mentioning that. And just so you hear a number to that, we've actually accepted 150 bikes right now for the program. And so we're evaluating them. We're going to begin repairing them at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and the mayor's office will help us get these in the hands of asylum seekers. And I'm really, really excited about that. So thank you for bringing that up and sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, the other thing is we're going to talk about mobility plans because so much has been on traffic-based studies of what's going on when people come. And now that, especially since the United States DOT is really pushing for, we need to really broaden the mobility agencies, not transport agencies. And I'm going to use your website for this particular race because you do the most extensive information about getting there at the start of the race. And it's really a model for activities because nobody really asks, how are all your participants going to get there? How are you directing them? And Bike New York's really hit it out of the park. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We tried.
You succeeded. But Eric, if you'd like to speak?
Yes. So this bike tour, how many miles is it? And then do you have repair stations along the way if somebody gets a flat or a chain?
Oh yeah,
snaps?
absolutely. So our route is, I didn't go too deep into the route logistics because it's a whole nother monster, but our route is 40 miles long. We do have 4 rest areas and 4 water stations along the route. One of our sponsors is actually Trek, and they actually manage the bike repair throughout the route. We also use a lot of local bike repair shops based in New York City. So overall, we have over 12 bike repair stations along the route, along with other amenities like medical stations. We have the FDNY helping us with, medical as well. So we do spread out our resources throughout the 40 miles.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a big New York City endeavor, and we're very proud as the Manhattan Community District 1 to be the start of the race because this was the start of New York City. And Tammy Meltzer, our CB1 chair, if you'd like to speak.
Hi, thank you for coming and welcome. I had a question about the speakers, which is a conversation that always happens with the neighbors about.
Have you heard the change? Why don't you?
I think I
please?
tuned in just after the change because I heard, oh, that'll be a relief or something like that. But I needed just to hear the whole thing a little bit more clearly, knowing that that's a,
Sure. So as a runner show, we do have city officials from the mayor's office, the DOT, and others confirmed to come and speak during the morning. So we do place speakers along the wave up from Franklin Street up to Duane Street for us to be able to project the sound. The mayor's office asked that if they do have their official speaking, which could be the mayor, we have the DOT commissioner coming, so they do want to make sure that they're being heard. So we did place speakers again this year, similar to what we did last year. And I was just pointing out that last year we used 24 speakers along the stretch, and then this year we're toning it down to now just 13 speakers.
I can't tell you how we appreciate that, but beyond the number of speakers is to ensure a couple things. One, that they're not faced directly towards residential buildings if possible.
Correct. Yes.
I know the mayor-elect and the electeds, and I'll love to hear themselves, and projection is fantastic.
Right.
Also, without running tests early prior to would be really helpful. So,
Yes, definitely. And our AV company does have a decibel reader where we try to keep the sound under a certain limit so that we don't interfere with people's, living and like they're not hearing it at their homes. And the design here is based so that the sound could ideally be trapped within Church Street. So that's some testing that'll happen prior to the start as well to make sure we're not going over that limit.
I appreciate that. We are a largely growing residential population. So
Right.
it's it's something that I constantly need to make sure. And then to take a look at when will the lockdown of the streets happen? Is it the day before? Is it the night
No, so
before?
we do start setting up that midnight, and we do start some street closures on the surrounding blocks, but the lockdown of Church Street does not happen until 5 a.m. that morning. 5:30, if I'm not mistaken.
And what about the residential streets that are about that?
So we do have staple permits for Franklin Street, Worth Street, and I believe Walker Street that we do close prior to that on that Saturday. So from Church to Broadway.
At what time?
And that happens, so for Franklin Street, they start on Saturday, and Worth Street on Saturday as well, so the day before.
What time? I mean, there's a difference between 8 a.m. and noon. Worth is one of the very few cross streets that goes from Chinatown all the way across to the mostly.
Actually, it looks like Worth Street just at midnight as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you for answering all the questions. Of course, my comment is always going to be to the level as possible on Saturday to maintain as much accessibility for the pedestrians going back and forth.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Bicyclists, because we do have bicyclists riding the streets. And if a car tells you or tells the flag man, I live here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll have security overnight as well, and we'll make sure that we do give them those instructions to make sure that they're accommodating for the residents around the neighborhood, not block off access to anyone, even at the streets that we do have staples for. We are very lenient in letting people out and in, for sure.
And business deliveries, obviously, on Saturday. Have you coordinated? And I'd like to obviously request people know, and we very much appreciate the efforts, and you've been a great partner over the years, but making sure for the businesses and the small businesses that they know that there will be no delivery access and things like that starting Saturday. The old-fashioned way of papering it would
be sure.
highly...
And we do have that in our plan to hand out flyers in the neighborhood as well. I think we did that last year, and we plan on doing it again this year as well.
A little bit in advance would be great so they can plan.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Yes, and Tammy, since you might have missed too, they also announced a phone number that they have that will be in effect during setup as well as during the race.
Yes. Betty, the best thing that could possibly happen is that phone never rings.
Yes.
Yes, and it didn't ring last year.
Amazing setup. The businesses all got their deliveries Saturday mornings. Everybody knows, and that phone never needs to ring. That's my goal.
True, but we have a number that CB1 can announce because they said let people know, so if they have any concerns, they can call it.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely help with that. Thank you.
People, I see no other hands up. So given that, sorry, I have to look. Have things over, I can't see the attendees.
Hands are up.
Yes, okay, no hands up. So people would like to vote. Again, we'll do an affirmation vote. So this will be to support the street club, sorry, terrible timing, but support the proposed street closures and the street activity for this Bike New York 5-borough bike tour. Are there any opposed? Are there any people recusing? These are the requests from last year, which they've said they're going to keep intact.
Yes.
Okay, if there are none opposed, are there anyone who is a recusal? Are there any abstentions? Then it passes unanimously. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate your time. We look forward to being back here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all do. Take care.
All righty, you too. Thank you.
Now we get to move on, and let me see if we have the person for this. We have David Spear.
Peter and David, you've been moved over. You can unmute.
Yeah, and David, who else am I looking for?
Just Peter, Betty, and I think David Spear is going to just be part of this conversation as well. So just Peter.
Okay, great. And Rose, sorry, if you'd also move Rose over, and I see Trisha's there as well and participant. Thank you. So gentlemen, whenever you'd like to present, floor is yours. And just deal with Jess with if you'd like him to help you share screen, or I hear you'd like to share your own, so that's.
Well, I don't mind. I literally, Betty, just have the one image, the first of the two images. So who would I ask to share that at the appropriate?
Jess.
Jess. Jess, if you could just be ready with that first image, I would appreciate that very much. I'm going to share it at the beginning, take it down, and then share it back again.
I don't think I have that image. Betty, was that emailed to us?
I know I haven't seen it.
All right, well, let me see if I can. Sorry, I'm not a Cisco user on a regular basis, so just give me 1 second to scurry around here. Oh, I think I can,
comment.
yep, I can do it. So I'll do it when the time comes. So I think I'm good. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time on tonight's agenda for Tribeca and for us in particular. We really appreciate it. I'm Peter Downing, and on behalf of Tribeca Enterprises, I am here to present the street co-naming request, which specifically is a request to co-name the northeast corner of Greenwich Street and Franklin Street in honor of Robert De Niro and the Tribeca Festival. Now, to be clear right from the start, I've done my research on your existing categories, and as I understand, you've done some revising to your updating to your criteria and guidelines. And in addition to the individual, not-for-profit organization, and historic event and place categories, you also have an other category. I want to be clear that we're approaching you with that other category targeted and in mind, knowing that the criteria there is that the applicants must present a strong argument that the proposed honoree have an extraordinary and highly acclaimed accomplishment or involvement for the public good linked to both MCD1 and the location proposed for the co-naming. And that's what I intend to present to you this evening. So without further ado, I also understand that you've all been shared this application, but perhaps just within the past few hours. So I'm going to do my best to hit the high points, not take through every detail, but also call out what might already be in there. I think I have the pleasure of knowing some of you, Carrie. I know you and some other folks may have seen my face over the years. To clarify my connection to Tribeca, and particularly to this request, I have the pleasure of having a long-standing relationship with Tribeca Enterprises, and particularly with the Tribeca Film Festival, now Tribeca Festival, because 21 years ago, if you can believe that, I can't. I was hired as producer and creative director to bring to life the Tribeca Family Festival Street Fair, the large community event that we did for almost 16 years, from the founding of the festival all the way through to the around 2015, 2016. And probably for the better part of those 15 years, I've had the pleasure of presenting before this board and particularly the Tribeca community. On September 11th, Robert De Niro looked left from his offices at 375 Greenwich Street and saw, as many of us did, that hole torn in the heart of the city. And he took action by co-founding the Tribeca Film Festival. Now, I had the privilege to be there on Greenwich Street in May of 2002, bringing to life that family festival, and I saw the view from that very corner. And if I can figure out how to share my screen, I will share it with you as well. Everyone see that?
Yes.
That's a photo from the archives. That's pretty much up on Beach Street, looking down Greenwich Street, giving you all the view of the first year of the film festival. This is well before the Greenwich Hotel. You see that large banner up on the side of 375 Greenwich Street, and you actually can see the corner of Greenwich Street and Franklin Street down there behind all those wonderful crowds of people who came out that day to celebrate. This day is memorable for so many people in the neighborhood, and perhaps some of you were part of those crowds for not only the festival, but particularly that day. It really was the first time in about 8 months that people were out on the streets in the neighborhood, and many people seeing each other for the first time in a long time and really enjoying the neighborhood. We really scrambled to pull things off that first year, but we had the fire truck from Ladder 8, we had the chorus from PS 150, and some ballet dancers and gymnasts up on our main stage. We had restaurants, merchants, schools, and organization. Everybody gathered that day and throughout the festival to celebrate Tribeca and to welcome people back. And many people really share the powerful emotions of that day. Now, I understand that there's a few categories I want to hit on here. I'm going to leave that photo up for a beat, if I may. And again, I'm going to keep this high level because our intent is not to spend this time, singing the praises of Robert De Niro's international renown as actor, producer, and director, but more to the point, his qualification as a true son of the city who spent his formative childhood in Greenwich Village and Little Italy, and who truly was an early investor in Tribeca business and community development, helping to encourage economic redevelopment of the neighborhood with key investments at critical stages of this district's urban renewal. Robert De Niro takes immense pride in the development of his production company, Tribeca Productions, the Tribeca Film Center at 375 Greenwich Street, which he founded with Jane Rosenthal in 1989, and the Tribeca Festival, earlier known as the Tribeca Film Festival. Both the Tribeca Festival and Productions are headquartered at 375 Greenwich, right in the heart of the neighborhood. Perhaps his most significant cultural and economic contribution is the festival. In 2001, he founded it along with his co-founders to spur Lower Manhattan's economic and cultural revitalization following that horrific day and those horrific attacks. And the festival restored vitality and hope to downtown and showed the world the city's resilience. And today that spirit remains as New York City continues to recover from devastating economic and cultural impacts of the pandemic. And we're all together in that siege as well. I am proud to say on behalf of Tribeca that this June, the festival will return for its 22nd year, and boy, do I feel old, June 7th through June 18th. Now, in addition to the festival and these other initiatives, Robert De Niro has also been the force behind Tribeca Grill, Nobu, the Greenwich Hotel, Locanda Verde, and among other local businesses. And although the festival does have a sprawling footprint throughout New York City, its heart continues to be downtown, engaging directly with local theaters, a long-standing relationship with BMCC, Borough Manhattan Community College, and through all of these, through the festival, all of these initiatives and these business ventures, Robert De Niro's direct impact in the district is long-standing and significant. And for this, he is truly humbled and rightfully proud. We have the great fortune in pursuing this application to begin a network of support among residents and individuals, and we particularly have a letter of support from Christopher Marte from New York City, the New York City Council. Councilmember Marte, I won't read the entire letter. I do believe, Betty, that it's included in the application that was shared with the group, but he wrote to express his strong support for this co-naming. And that he really called out Mr. De Niro's countless contributions to the arts and the culture of New York City, and especially the Tribeca community. Described Robert De Niro as a proud and active neighbor and a passionate advocate for the Tribeca community who's always ready to help during times of crisis. I'm going to paraphrase his final quote, but I think it's powerful and appropriate, that co-naming the corner of Franklin Street and Greenwich Street as Robert De Niro Way, or something along those lines, is a fitting and meaningful tribute to honor an active member, an ally, and a true hero to the Tribeca and Lower Manhattan community. It would not only honor Mr. De Niro's achievements and contributions, but also inspire future generations of artists, entrepreneurs, and community leaders to follow his example. It's a big occasion coming up this fall because don't tell him I told you this, but Robert De Niro will be celebrating his 80th birthday this fall. And we at Tribeca Enterprises respectfully submit this application for the street co-naming to celebrate that milestone for Robert De Niro, his 80th birthday, but perhaps even more importantly, to recognize an honorable son of the city who has for over 50 years contributed to the cultural and economic growth of a city, of a community and a district which he loves and has given his life to, and which has given him so much in return. And with that, I pause and I thank you for your time to be able to share this application. And Betty, I turn it back to you for the next part of this conversation.
Thank you. Then I'll look for hands to see if anyone has something they'd like to say or ask. And I'm glad to, Tammy, I'm going to let you go after Eric because he's a committee member, but by all means, that'll be the order. Eric, and then please our CB1 chair, Tammy Meltzer will speak.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with everything Mr. Downing said. Robert De Niro, he's a New York icon. I know it goes normally against the rules or the requirements, but this is an extraordinary person who is a New Yorker, been a New Yorker, and really brought a lot of attention, positive attention back to New York. In general, though, I am a little hesitant doing co-naming for people that are still still alive, just because it runs the risk of for future activities in case skeletons come out of the closet. But I think in this case it's perfectly acceptable.
Thank you for that, Eric.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you the dilemma. I'm going to let Tammy speak first. The dilemma is, well, I'm sure she'll bring it up. Tammy?
I actually wanted to ask, Peter, in your presentation, you mentioned or something similar, you said, for the street sign. So if it was not Robert De Niro Way that you're asking, what are you looking for? What kind of, or something similar or other are in your lexicon?
Thank you for that question, Tammy. I think I'm not sort of the authorized source here, but I know, people certainly know it. Having Robert De Niro's name in the naming is very important. If, as this conversation moves forward at other levels, perhaps above my pay grade, if a founder of Tribeca Festival is part of that mix to sort of co-brand or label, if you will, I think everyone would be open to that conversation. Bob is very humble. I don't pretend like we're BFFs, but I've had the pleasure of knowing him and working with him for a long time. And even the notion of Robert De Niro Alley, I mean, he's not a fancy guy, so there's nothing sort of highfalutin in the label, if you will, of way or thoroughfare or things of that sort. But we certainly feel strongly about having his name in the renaming. That would be the purpose there. And I think the question would be whether it's Robert De Niro Alley and or Robert De Niro Alley, co-founder Tribeca Festival. Those things, I guess, would all be part of the conversation moving forward.
I appreciate that. I mean, I will give my 2 cents, whether they're popular or not doesn't make a difference. It's an honest opinion of where we go. Have always been on record as being rapidly against co-naming names for streets, because there are only so many streets. It's a historic district. The streets are named for the streets are named. I also don't discount the incredible positive impacts he has had in Tribeca for all of his businesses. Yes, I do appreciate the family festival that ran until about 6 or 7 years ago. That was a great neighborhood ad as well. It hasn't been. And of course, those of us who have been here since the beginning when he started know it as the Tribeca Film Festival versus the newer expression of Tribeca Festival. That's sort of the upcoming current and future, but not the past that we knew and grew with. But so I appreciate everything that he has and does do, and absolutely responding in emergency. He is an exemplary New Yorker. But I hesitate because there are many exemplary New Yorkers in New York and in Lower Manhattan. And where do we draw the line is a question I ask often. So I'm going to leave that there with no opinion other than I am incredibly grateful for all the work he has done and continues to do. impressed at his resiliency as for all of the amazing things that he is. But I am also concerned about renaming a street when we have said no so often to so many who are so deserving.
Tammy, I understand and I totally respect your sharing here and your point of view. If I could respond to you before we go to Jess, just some clarification for the general group here. The festival renamed itself Tribeca Festival because, quite frankly, we've become so much more than just film. We are ultimately about storytelling in all of its forms, but now we have immersive and interactive and gaming and so many other elements. So that could be a potential point of confusion for some folks, but the word film was taken out to more broadly and really accurately, describe where the programming and where the foundational elements of the festival are going, just as a point of concern there.
No, it's a consummate business decision. I don't blame you because it's far more broad reaching and less colloquial in terms of its thing, but it is an amazing
Right.
enterprise, as you say.
And no different. I mean, the TFF is still the foundation on which we are building, and our film roots run deep. It's all storytelling. It's just, as we all know, just in the past several years, the screens have moved and changed and are everywhere we look. In terms of the naming, we do find ourselves in that cross intersection here where perhaps we're your first candidate to come at you with this newly, as I understand it, established other category, right? Because it looks like your criteria is extraordinary, highly acclaimed accomplishment and a link to the location. And of course, that very specific location, the film center, the grill, where everything has sort of played out in the neighborhood, as well as the accomplishments of this man throughout these decades and throughout the time. It's almost like the other category is the perfect place to be. That's no disrespect to what you're mentioning, Tammy, in terms of your feelings, because it wouldn't be my place to change that. Just try to continue to perhaps support the proposal and the argument, if you will, for why this doesn't fit into the other three, but certainly seems to fit into the other category.
Why now is my last question.
80th birthday this fall. like I said, 22 years of festival. It just seems like the right time to really celebrate the man, the work, and all that has occurred and all the accomplishments. Perhaps the birthday is the most precipitating timing element in all the mix.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nathan, Jess?
Yeah, so I don't want to make this too much about Robert De Niro, the person, because I think, we can all agree he's a great New Yorker. He's awesome. I mean, Meet the Parents is one of my favorite movies. But Tammy brought up, where do we draw the line? And I think the answer to that is we draw the line where we drew our guidelines just 2 months ago that we spent a long time debating ad nauseum, and we came up with these very specific guidelines that we passed just 2 months ago. Frankly, with all due respect to everything that's been said here, I think granting this request would basically tear up all the work we did, all the guidelines we made. It would create a gaping hole in these guidelines. I mean, even under our previous guidelines, even under the most lenient standards that were being proposed during this process, this wouldn't qualify. So to me, this isn't really about Robert De Niro. It's about our procedure and our process and a policy decision that we've made and that I think is a good one. And I would, propose that we go ahead and stick to our guidelines and move to a vote on this. I know there's some more people who want to speak, but I think as a matter for this committee, I think it's pretty clear cut and simple for us.
Jess, if I may respond to that, I'm literally reading your fourth category on your published rules, and it says, of course, at your discretion, granting a naming that does not clearly fall into any of the three categories, individual, not-for-profit organization, or historic event or place, would require the applicant to provide a strong argument that the proposed honoree have an extraordinary and highly acclaimed accomplishment or involvement for the public good linked to both MCD1 and the location proposed for the co-naming. So with all due respect, I'm not challenging your position, Jess, but everything that I've just shared in terms of our presentation seems to exactly align with that fourth category that you all created in terms of your guidelines.
I totally hear you, and again, this isn't about your argument or any of the substance really here. I mean that was meant to be a very seldomly used exception that really was meant to answer people's concerns that we were going to stop extraordinary cases from getting through, and we wanted to retain our ability to have discretion. But in this particular case, I think if that's going to apply under the other category, unfortunately, almost anything would. So it really would, in effect, create a gaping hole. Like I said, in these guidelines, I don't think there's any way around that. I understand you can make an argument under it, and I don't discount that. But the reality is, it would basically tear up what these rules that we've made here. And I'll stop with that, Betty.
Well, I just want to ask you one question, because I understand your dilemma. Because other category, because what I had said to Peter was the problem is that the co-naming is a person's name. So separating it from individual to throw it into other is a little bit problematic there. Peter had mentioned maybe we could change the name a little, modify the name a little bit from being just the individual's name, as long as it was included. Do you have any suggestions for something that in your mind would bring it closer to potentially out of individual toward another category? If you want to think about it while other people speak.
Is that question for me, Betty, or for
No,
Jess?
it's for Jess.
I actually, I think that
I could-
Peter also should answer that.
I was going to say I think that's better for Peter. Yeah, I don't want to be the one, the one making a new request here.
Well, no, I was going to have him respond to that, and I'll have you speak next, Peter. But I just thought if you had an idea of something that in your mind would take it to other from individual category, what kind of change, so we had a better sense of what you're thinking. But let's let Peter speak, and then if you have any comments about it, let me know. Yes, Peter.
Sure. Well, I don't really have anything new to add other than saying Robert De Niro Way, co-founder Tribeca Festival. I mean, that balancing the name with the foundational element that perhaps is the most visible event and activation to not only the New York community, but to an international audience. People know Robert De Niro by reputation, and they know the Tribeca Film Festival internationally because of its prominence within the film festival circuit. I had the pleasure for 3 years of producing family events in Doha when Tribeca had a relationship with the Doha Film Institute, and we had the Doha Tribeca Film Festival, and it was amazing how the entire community in the Middle East knew him better than anybody else on that carpet. So we're talking international visitors to the city, as well as the local factor. So again, the actual word naming of having Robert De Niro's name, whether it be Robert De Niro Way or Alley, Way perhaps has a better lilt to it, joined to co-founder Tribeca Festival. Those two things do seem to balance out using the word Tribeca there, as well as Robert De Niro's name. But again, I know that's topic for future conversation. Robert De Niro Way, co-founder Tribeca Festival.
Great. Well, let's move on and give him that. We have Pat, and then Mitch, and then Detta.
Well, I have to make this personal. So I live 100 feet away from what was the South Tower. My home was destroyed, and I was out of my home for 2 years, my neighbors and myself. And we went through a lot over the 2 years. And nothing, I mean, I respect Mr. De Niro as a great actor. He has all of these businesses that have brought him money, but he did nothing to help the people who were most affected, 9/11. And so I'm sorry, but I just don't see why he needs to have a street named after him. Yes, he has the film festival, but he's made money. Yes, he has recognition. He already has recognition. As you say, people all over the world know him. I don't see any reason why he has to have a street. There are officers, police officers who died, who have come to us to ask for street co-naming, and we've said no. So in my opinion, I don't see any reason why he needs to have a street named after him.
Great. Well, thank you for your input. And Mitch, the floor is yours.
I actually just took my hand down, but after hearing Pat speak, not saying, well, just very quickly, not saying, whether I'm personally for or against it. I just thought when, everybody did such, lengthy work on the guidelines, kind of to piggyback to respond to what Jess said, yes, there were guidelines. I just thought after we voted that they weren't black and white, like written in stone. And then it's a question of whether you feel this is an extraordinary situation. But I get the feeling that some people are saying if we do this, then we mess up the guidelines. I don't feel that way. But like I said, that's separate from whether I'm for this or against this. But I thought that this does fit into the other category. And then it's a question of, I don't think it would tear down the guidelines, like I said, just on a general matter, not specifically for this thing, because I thought that there were to be exceptions. But I'll leave it at that. After what Pat said, I empathize with what Pat said, so I'm I lean that way right now.
And Mitchell, if I may comment, thank you
Sure.
for that. And again, I've got the words up right in front of me, and I've carefully read all 4 categories. It seems like you all put a lot of hard work and discussion into formulating this additional category to be the other. This seems to fit right in what you all have defined, and in no way challenges it. That's just my opinion, but I agree with you.
Thank you.
Great. And Detta? You're muted.
Okay, now I'm unmuted, right? So, yeah, I actually feel that this is extraordinary, so I don't feel that it would be throwing out all of our hard work to approve this under the other category. I think it would be rare that we would find somebody with this level of a body of work and the level of connection to a community and connection to this specific area of the community and this specific block. And I still think it is a very high bar to reach. I don't think we're throwing out all of our considerations and our thoughtful recommendations. I generally am not in favor of street co-naming at all. This one, though, does make sense to me. I feel that it is itself creating such a high bar for the category of other. So if that's my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
appreciate that. I'm sorry.
I see Tammy's hand is back up, so.
So I think this is why, Peter, I asked as to how flexible you were with the naming, because I look at this and say to myself, fast forward 10 years and Taylor Swift, who lives just down the road from where we're talking about, comes out and does an amazing amount of things for the local schools and the local community. And then 5 years after that, she'd like to have her street renamed to Taylor Swift Way. She does, because she's lived in the community for 20 years and she does things like that. I'm being a bit cheeky, but understand where I'm going on this, right? We've had people who were not famous come to us, but who were incredible public servants working at the homeless shelter, and others from businesses who have come to want to brand their corners for their people. And we've said no. And they didn't come with the star power. They didn't come with, the notoriety. So the struggle that I see with this other is, if it was being named, something about the Tribeca Festival, which was what elevated the name of Tribeca, and picking that, versus being Robert De Niro Way, I feel it's a little bit different, because you could, much like any other tourist marker that you have in the city, you can say, oh, well, this is where the Tribeca Film Festival started. Or you could say, from joy to pain, this is where the slave market was. We have a plaque on a wall over in the Seaport District. This is where this was on Wall Street. I think that, to me, fits in that other guideline super, super well, because it's a different thing. If you were talking for a recognition of, yes, when the Tribeca Film Festival was TFF, and they did community give back, which was the community day, and the local schools got to perform on the little stage that was over on Harrison Street, and it was an amazing, there were vendors and all of the schools and the youth organizations and the restaurants, and you wandered up and down. That was the community give back, which I understand from business change and enterprise ended in 2015 or 16. So if we were looking at this historically and saying, because once we co-name a street, let's be honest, it doesn't come back down. If it was the corner of there that says, you know, the starting place of the Tribeca Film Festival, or you know, by Robert De Niro, that's one thing to me, because that's historical. It fits under the other category really well. What you're asking us is really an individual, a spectacular individual. But, you know, when Taylor Swift comes to us in 20 years, I'm sure that, you know, maybe she has done fantastic stuff in 20, 30 years. And I don't want to be caught in that loop. I'm trying to help you here find a way that it is not necessarily deemed the Robert De Niro way, not because I don't enjoy Robert De Niro, but because I do think that what is so amazing about what has been done that's meaningful in this community, that has connection, is what we're talking about from the start. And it is historical, and people could see that street and say, oh, the Tribeca Film Festival started here. Tribeca Enterprises is who you currently are. I mean, I didn't even know that name. I was like, I kept thinking you were saying it incorrectly. And I've lived down here 25 years. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm trying to encourage you forward, to try and find a way to meet us, to understand what that other is. Because I understand you want to honor him while he's alive. And that's beautiful. But when the restaurant closes, someday it will, or it's bought out, or maybe it doesn't. What reference does it have to that corner? Right?
I hear all you're saying, Tammy, and I respect it. I think the comparison to Taylor Swift is apt, but very different in terms of contribution to community, established businesses, and presence. Taylor Swift is a resident of that block, you know, further east, but has, for all her accomplishments, and we don't have to debate the vagaries of Taylor Swift, and you're not asking to.
She's still young. She's still young, my friend.
Right.
We don't know what she'll do for the community in 30 years. Maybe she's, you know, we don't know. But I use that because when we set guidelines, we tried to set guidelines that were not ripe for only today, that they were actually very forward thinking, which is why I'm trying to get.
Sure, but with all of the key and most and highest profile businesses here from our initiatives, rather, from the Tribeca Film Festival to the Tribeca Grill to the Tribeca Film Center, Robert De Niro has named all of his businesses after his community, you know, after the neighborhood there. And of course, that is where not only the festival started, but where it continues. Screenings are still held in that building. Spring Studios is still part of that mix. We're still screening down at the multiplex. So I guess the naming, I think, is a topic for a future for perhaps the next conversation here. I'm not, you know, I guess we'll see how that moves forward. But we still, you know, we still sort of stand behind the request here, certainly on the contributions and achievements and the give back more than anything else that this man has brought about for this community. I see other hands up, so sorry, I'm talking too much.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, as far as Mimi and then Eric and Detta, since both of the other two have spoken before, but Mimi's new.
Taylor Swift is amazing, by the way. Art. Anyway, I just I feel like I hesitate to say it because it you know, it's super biased. And I really hate to think that we would only have celebrities be co-named. But like, if not Robert De Niro, then who? Like, who fits these guidelines? I like, I would love for, someone that is essentially just only known in their community by lots and lots of people and supported by lots and lots of people in the region that isn't Googleable, to be co-named, because then, we can have people talk about that person. In regards to, like, if the restaurant closes or what have you, in the future, like 100 years from now, it would be kind of cool to, have people say like, oh yeah, well, Robert De Niro started this festival a long time ago, and maybe the festival's not going on anymore, but it was really incredible. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like we wouldn't name anything after anybody. Anyway, thanks.
Appreciate that thought, Mimi. Thank you.
Yes. Eric and Adetta?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we're not renaming the street. This is a co-naming. So it'll be there for visitors, residents, people who work in the area to see and to pay homage to Robert De Niro and his life. So I think we're overvaluing or the impact to people. I mean, the street name is still the same. It's just going to be, it would just be below it, naming this after him, because of his association with Tribeca and New York City as in general. But I think we're overvaluing the impact of this co-naming. So yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you. And after Detta, we'll have Patrick, because we haven't heard from him yet. And then Jess, if you'd like to say something. Detta? You're muted.
Oh, okay. I liked what Mimi said, like, not Robert De Niro, then who would, would meet the threshold. Also, from my understanding, if anyone can correct me on this, but if our Christopher Marte, our city council member, is strongly in favor of this, and as I understand it, often council members defer on something that's district specific to the council member whose district it is. So, is this going to get passed by the city council no matter what we do? If we're trying to say that's just a question.
And in response to your question, in my contact here, about 50% of the requests have been refused and 100% of them have been passed at city council.
So
That's
we
your
might
answer.
as well not
That
drive
shouldn't-
ourselves crazy.
Well, yeah, don't drive yourself crazy, but that doesn't need to sway your vote.
Okay.
Patrick, then Jess.
Well, just to that last point, I will defend Councilmember Marte a little bit and give him credit for being a council member who does listen to the community board. So perhaps we can all come together in one voice and listen to that and not have his mind made up already. But I am somebody too who has been opposed to street co-namings just as a general concept. I think it's an honorific whose time has passed. And the fact that we're all struggling with this is evidence to me that we shouldn't even be doing these things in the first place. But I do have some thoughts potentially about this one. But Peter, I wanted to ask you before launching into that, have you considered other ways to honor Mr. De Niro? And I think, when we talked about our guidelines, we threw around things like a plaque on a building or a park bench. I think in Mr. De Niro's case, I could even envision something like you might see outside of Yankee Stadium or a ballpark, like a nice big statue that honors the man and the contribution to the community. Because to be honest, I do think when I think of Tribeca and I think of folks associated with it, if it's not the first name to come to mind, it's not far down the list to think of Robert De Niro. That is for sure. And I think some sort of honor is very in order and would be welcome there. And so I guess I just wonder, is there any other way to do this?
I mean, Patrick, thanks for your sharing there. It's there certainly would be and could be. above my pay grade and not for me to say specifically. I will tell you that there is discussion and projected plans underway to have a celebration in September to honor this milestone and a multi-day event to celebrate his birthday and this occasion. But we just really, there's great passion at Tribeca about that specific location being the heart of his work, where he has established his business, his contributions, and the spot from which all things flow. There's something about that corner because of that building, that location, the neighborhood. That's kind of at the heart of where he has lived and worked and brought his work to life for so many. So not negating any of your other suggestions, I just know that that's sort of the passion behind tying to this corner and this location was the main driver for making this request at that location.
So I'm going to bid against myself a little bit, and again, as somebody who's totally opposed to these things, sort of as a general matter, Peter, I think you've made a persuasive case for the other category. I'd be inclined to vote for it, but if it does not gain approval from this committee or from the community board or from city council, it's a small street sign. I would encourage you to swing bigger and think about, or to those who, as you say, are above your pay grade, which I think you're being kind of deferential. That's fine. But I think, thinking of something like a bronze statue or something really memorable for who I agree with you is a true remarkable son of New York. I think that would be more befitting.
I appreciate that, Patrick. Thank you for that input.
Thank you.
Jess, you took your hand down. Are you ready to speak?
I'm ready. Yeah, it sounds like views are hardening, so perhaps it doesn't matter, but I just want to respond to a couple of things that have been said, particularly Mimi's point that if Robert De Niro doesn't fit here, who does? I think it's the exact opposite. I think if Robert De Niro does fit here, I think pretty much anything does. I think we're kind of undervaluing the contributions of dozens of people I can think of right now, many people on this board who have spent their whole lives contributing to this community and who very arguably can be compared to Robert De Niro, just not on the scale because of his wealth and fame and all of that. So, I think the reality is the exception shouldn't swallow the rule is really what I'm saying. And let's be real, if we grant this request 2 months after we pass these guidelines, the individual category is pretty much gone. Every single person coming here is going to say they're under the other category. And when you get down to let's compare him to Robert De Niro, I'm just thinking of, I won't name names, but many people on this board. I mean, we can make a very compelling argument that they've contributed just as much to the community. And I just think we're setting a really bad precedent. And perhaps it's also from my notions about street co-namings like Patrick in general. But our guidelines should mean something, and I think we should really consider what kind of precedent we'd be setting.
Tammy, how concerned are you about precedent setting if it goes into other and a name change is put forward as you've hinted at?
Honestly, I think if it was Robert De Niro way, it is so precedent setting. Please don't be offended, Peter. I'd be campaigning at the full board to not do this. I'm not taking the vote. I'm going to sign off right after committee, but I'd be campaigning because I think that if it was, founding location of Tribeca Enterprises by Robert De Niro, I could get behind that as an other, because it really is historical. It's place setting. It's honoring him. It's honoring the businesses. Of course, where Tribeca Film Festival started it all. I think that's by Robert De Niro. I think that would accomplish everything and fall under other. Otherwise, this is just an individual application. And I don't mean to say this is just an individual. You understand, Peter, what I'm saying? This is an individual's application, not an other. It only makes it other because he's not dead. Thank goodness for us as a public. But I I personally would only have said this is a great idea for a co-naming if it tagged exactly in place and time, because you don't know in 20 or 30 years whether the neighborhood would be renamed. We all know it as Tribeca, but I guarantee you Hell's Kitchen didn't ever think that they would be called Clinton. And neighborhoods change and things like that. To me, it's part of a place setting of what Tribeca was and putting Tribeca on the map. Not Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro helping put Tribeca on the map. So my thought process to fit under other is that it would not fit unless it includes the Tribeca Festival somehow.
And that makes great sense, Tammy. And I think that's also I think leadership at Tribeca would be very understanding of that and very open to that. That makes perfect sense, because even if Tribeca does get renamed, you know, way before any of us are still on this earth, that spot, that location will always be where everything that's happened has happened. So understood. Understood.
Pat?
And out of curiosity, he had a partner, a woman who helped start the Tribeca Film Festival. So why isn't it, you know, this is where Tribeca Film Festival started, founded by Robert De Niro and whatever his partner's name is.
Right, Pat, he's a co-founder. Jane Rosenthal is his business partner as well. Yeah, there are actually a few co-founders from first year, but he's clearly always identified as the co-founder. But
I know, but Jane Rosenthal, now that you've said her name, she has been very active in having founded and continuing the film festival.
Absolutely, she has. But the focus here and the purpose of the request.
I understand he has the notoriety. I know he has the name.
Well, and the birthday.
Cachet.
And the birthday, Pat, and the birthday.
My 70th birthday is coming up around the same time his 80th birthday's come up, and I've done a lot for this community. So hey.
I'm jumping off because I've already kind of rolled where I am. I'm curious to hear how it happens and what the vote comes out, and what Peter says is a willingness so we can do a resolution. I tend to sense from where Peter's going that they are looking to get this done quickly. So a resolution would be needed in committee now, because he'd like something up on the street by the time the gentleman turns 80 in the fall. And with that,
find out how definite the change or flexibility is, which isn't really fair to him to make a decision on his own without anyone else.
We can make a resolution that says, yes, can consider only if that ends up coming out, or no unless. We are very good at doing those types of resolutions. And on that note, I'll leave you all to talk. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter.
Betty, can I put my hand up?
Yes, and if you'd kind of indicate where you were in stance, because I'm sort of.
Yes, I actually feel what Tammy's idea might be a win-win situation. It kind of for people that were kind of against the individual co-naming, and the funny thing is, I used to live in Hell's Kitchen when it was Hell's Kitchen, and that kind of hit home. Because now Clinton is unaffordable, just like maybe like when Pat moved here, and Tribeca was unaffordable for a lot of people from the years that Pat first moved here. So I think combining the Tribeca Film Festival by whatever, Robert De Niro, or by Robert and Jane, or however you want to put it, I feel that Tammy's suggestions might be a win-win situation for a consensus on the middle of the committee.
Thank you for that.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of stuck now as we go with supporting or not supporting, because supporting because I'm kind of hearing a very big mix that I'm not sure where people are gelling in the end. Mimi? You're muted.
Muted.
I just took my hand down. Sorry about that. I read through the guidelines again, and it really doesn't align with any of them at all. So, in order to be consistent, I think I would have to say no.
Mimi, may I just respectfully challenge you there? Can you tell me how it does not align with the accomplishment piece and the location? It seems to actually very clearly align with the criteria here in the other category.
Yeah, well, it really seems like it's a person or organization. the co-naming, since the proposal is either based on the organization's name or the individual's name. And I really don't think that trying to squeeze it into other is, like lives to the spirit of the guidelines, honestly. I don't really think that
Right. And again, maybe not trying to challenge, just literally reading it word for word here. The applicant must provide a strong argument that the proposed honoree, the honor individual, right, have an extraordinary, highly acclaimed accomplishment or involvement for the public good linked to both the district and the location. So to me, that's check, check, check.
Yeah, Pete, yeah, I'm just gonna.
No one's, I just want to say, no one's debating the location.
You get it, yeah. I just want to say you have to read the other category because it's obviously very subjective. It has to be read with everything else, and it can't be read. It would make no sense really if it can be read to just be an alternative to get out of the individual category. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Like I said, like an exception that just swallows the rule isn't an exception. It's just the absence of a rule. So, yeah, we know what it says, but it has to be read with everything else, and that's the way that we meant it when we drafted it.
Okay, then I respect that, Jess, and I'm struggling a bit as I literally have them right up in front of me here, right? The individual category has to be deceased.
Peter.
Again, I'm sorry, sir.
We know what it says. We know what it says.
Right. I just it seems to say it pretty clearly.
Again, Jess is right. It's a matter of the individual's interpretation when taking their stance on it.
Understood. Understood.
And I understand his fear, as is mine, of setting a precedent that we throw out our guidelines for someone. It's not that clear that it preserves us from that. That's his concern. And I hear it. Eric?
Yeah, I think this actually benefit. I mean, from a self-serving perspective, it's actually adds notoriety to this area. Tourists will see it. It links the neighborhood to film production or entertainment. So it actually benefits the neighborhood. But I have reservations about linking or expanding the name to include Tribeca Film Festival, because that was a private venture, a private company. But I know you said there's a new name now, so I think, and also it might get too long in words, too many words. So I think it's simple with Robert De Niro Way, just for his lifetime achievement. So yeah, thank you very much.
I'm doing a straw poll here to see which way do I go. Detta and then Patrick and then.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself in a weird place. But yeah, I'm actually in agreement with Eric. I would have concerns about a lot of letters on the sign and how tiny they would get, and then you're trying to look up and you can't read what it says at all.
What are you concerned about it being an individual's name and saying it's not in?
No, I'm comfortable with Robert De Niro Alley, Robert De Niro Way. I don't know how many letters the Department of Transportation will allow on a sign if we tried to say Tribeca Festival founder Robert De Niro. Like, and do they even allow you to just sort of say that instead of having it be like way or place or alley or plaza? So
that's why the resolution would have to be an if, because then it's another unknown. One, does the submitting group agree with it or come gel around a name that they would accept? And two, does the DOT agree that they could do something with that? I have seen 2 lines on a sign before. You're right, the lettering's a little smaller.
I mean, there are people with extraordinarily long names up in Harlem, and sometimes the whole name is on there and it's just smaller, or sometimes they abbreviate different parts of the names. But yeah, I mean, I guess the idea of it's supposed to be sort of a street co-naming, it's not a plaque. So it's not something where you say, you know, Tribeca Festival founder Robert De Niro. Like that doesn't even have anything related to street. So yeah, I mean,
That's what Peter was saying. It does, because that was a location.
No, I know it, but I meant in terms of like when you're trying to put the little moniker on it to, you know, do you put way or plaza or place at the or alley at the end? It would just sound a little weird. Anyway, I'm just saying I'm happy with it being just the name and the, you know, Robert De Niro way.
Okay, so I
Thank
realize
you for
that,
that,
yeah,
Deb.
you know, Tammy would disagree with that, so I mean, that's the spirit.
I'm hearing, yeah, I'm hearing
Patrick?
a lot of voices.
Yeah, so there sure is a lot of nuance here as we sort of peel this back a little bit. And even after I spoke or right before, I heard some other really good points, like Pat Moore's point about, you know, what about the other co-founder? And I completely agree with Jess that the intent of our guidelines as we drafted them is such that we have an established number of categories, and the other is meant to be a rare exception to any of those categories and not a standalone category of its own. So when I spoke earlier, you know, it was my view that you made a persuasive case for that exception, Peter, but I think there are so many nuances and so many other issues that are raised that I wonder, is there any value to holding this over for even one more month where you can take back to the Tribeca Enterprises leadership the comments that we've made and talk about alternatives, whether it's something alternative to a street co-naming in another form, reconfiguring the application, really just to sort of address the concerns and the questions that you've heard here tonight so that you don't have to take an up or down vote on what seems to be a difficult application as it's presented.
I mean, we're certainly open to all you're suggesting there, Patrick. I mean, the reason we're here and we're so grateful for the opportunity to get on this agenda on very short notice is that we do feel that this is a rare exception, and it's really the only reason that we're asking for it. You know, not that all those other opportunities to honor and acknowledge aren't viable or would be a good thing, but we're asking because we do think that it matters, and we do think it fits within the the other category, even though that's not for me to say. That's all for you to say because you established that category, you know, as a committee.
Let me kind of get a sense of where people in the room are. How many people would, Cody, you want to put your, and this is the last one is Cody, and then we're going to take a straw poll to move forward.
I'm sort of like on the, you know, I feel like a plaque or a historical marker on the spot that sort of puts it all into the sort of historical context that tells the story of the festival in a short 2-paragraph, you know, marker would be, you know, more appropriate, and also just like more informative to people who have no idea about what the history behind the Tribeca Film Festival and the impact it had on the neighborhood.
Yeah, so thank you. And keep in mind within the application, one of the things that's changed now is it does mention that CB1 would be happy to support other things at the cost of the applicant. But nevertheless, it does promote the options to a coast street name on it, because that has come up so many times. Okay. Kind of left here with where to go on this. Let me go with assuming that people are again, I don't know exactly where people are. What if we have that we are not in support of, we are in support if, we'll take the Tammy's position. We're in support if the name changes with the Tribeca Festival being the highlight and co-founder Robert De Niro coming after it. Also included, but after it. We're clearly taking it out of the individual category. Do people like that? How many people would agree with?
I can go. I'm sorry. You go first, Jess.
Yeah, it makes me, I'm judging by people shaking their heads here already. It makes me like a little uncomfortable being like so advisory and like voting on something that wasn't presented to us. I think we can vote on the request that's been put before us, and that always leaves open the option to come back again with something new. But I think we should vote on what's before us.
Great, thank you. Then I have to I can make a shot in the dark. either we support or we don't support, because they're really the two options. And I'd rather put it in, I'm sensing the don't support
Respectfully,
because
Betty,
of the
I think there
issues
is a
that have
third
to
option.
go with having a precedent that we kind of, everybody who comes before us in the future can say, waive the guidelines for me.
Then what about some of the recommendations that like Cody, yourself, and Detta and Eric? I mean, because I'm good with all of those, you know, whether it's a plaque, whether it's the co-naming with Tribeca Film Festival, whether it's Robert De Niro Way. I mean, if it's either black or white, then I think then it'll probably get voted down. But
It's black or white, and that the request is for Robert De Niro Way. So in terms of including Tribeca Festival, that's not,
and or the plaque.
the plaque is a whole separate issue. And
Okay.
we could do that, but this is a co-name. This is a co-name sign. And that's all
I
we're
mean,
voting on.
I think we should just move it for a vote, like make a positive resolution, and if people vote it down, they vote it down, and then the resolution doesn't advance.
I'm going to say, if I'm hearing from people don't support, then I understand the positive and I kind of like to do that. But what I'm hearing is negative, then I think that's what has to be done. Patrick?
I just wanted to say there is a third option, which is to lay it on the table, let the applicant go back, visit with leadership, incorporate the comments that we've made and come back and see whether they want to continue with the application as presented or whether they want to amend it somehow, withdraw it, ask for support for some other form of an honorific. I don't think it has to be necessarily an up or down vote, but again, that's if the applicant wants to go forward with that vote tonight. I mean, I can read the room.
Yes, and Tricia, I'll get to you in a minute. It sounded to me like, Peter, that you're saying, no, you really don't want to change the name. As far as all the other options, this does not close the door to doing those things at all. So this is only voting on the co-name, and so it sort of has to be up or down.
Right, and also Betty, just given like the posture of this, that we don't have the benefit of controlling this process, and you know, Christopher Marte has already given a letter of support, so I think it kind of this is kind of ripe for us to determine now. So I think we should say something at least.
Tricia, since you haven't spoken.
Hi, I just really wanted to support what Patrick said. I think, you know, with both things he said, actually, and for whatever that's worth. If the committee feels like we need to vote on it, I would understand that completely. But as I see it, there are many options. That third option to me is just a little bit softer than a no. And to postpone a month, I don't think would be harmful. But again, that's my one vote.
Thanks. Well, I think, Peter, you can speak to say the 1 month I sensed from you was not particularly a good option.
I mean, just in terms of overall timing, obviously, that would be a concern. But Betty, I don't want to muddy the waters here, and you can shoot me down. But I've been trying to track where people are landing and see where consensus is building. I mean, certainly the straight on request of, and I'm just going to use Robert De Niro Way as the example. That one request is just doing the co-naming, and again, it's not a rename; it's a co-name. That's what the language says. You know, the co-naming Robert De Niro Way only is one thing to vote on and get a read on. The second option that Tammy, I believe, supports is the co-naming of the co-name, right? Combining Robert De Niro with the Tribeca Film Festival co-founder Robert De Niro. Those are two distinct. There seem to be some more passion and energy around one than the other. And the third bucket is Patrick's recommendations that others seem to support, which is a notion of a plaque or a statue or other things, you know, either in addition to or instead of. I saw three buckets sort of
Well,
formed.
no, actually, the third bucket isn't our purview at all. So that's why I'm keeping that completely out.
Okay.
You know, we encourage it, but we don't control it. We don't advise on it. We don't opine on it, which is why the application merely says, if someone chooses to go in that direction, we would be happy to support it. Support the effort.
So it's really the two options on the table of the straight on name only or the name connected with Tribeca Festival or Tribeca Film Festival.
Which is why I would take that as two different rounds of voting.
Okay.
Tricia?
I
And
wanted
then
just
we're
want
gonna
to be
vote.
clear that I was not against the Tribeca Film Festival idea that Tammy had. I like Patrick's as well. I have a harder time with Robert De Niro Way because of the precedent of our committee decision.
No question, that is the real issue around Robert De Niro Way. But to get through the options so that Peter and the Tribeca Enterprises are aware of kind of where the committee stands and how, then they can decide where they want to go with it. How many people would vote against saying that we will not support?
How do you want us to show what we will vote? Like raise our hands in our video, or?
You can raise
You
the
know.
hands, yes, I can see them on the screen, and don't put your hand up because you want to talk, only raise
So
it.
this is, what are you
Either.
asking, if we would
If
support
we
it?
say that we don't, we as a community board do not support co-naming Robert De Niro Way, because that's where the majority on that very specific thing appear to be. How many people would vote no because they say, I do support it?
I would vote no.
The question is confusing.
I'm
at least to me.
confused. Are
Yeah,
you asking us?
negative resolutions are just so
Let me
terrible.
put it, okay, let me put it
Just
positive.
interject. Sorry, can I just interject before you continue? If you are going
Sure.
to be, is everybody who is voting on camera, currently on camera? Mitchell, I'll need you on camera.
I am now, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, continue.
Well, Tricia would need to be on camera as well.
Betty, are you gonna, I just need to ask one question of clarification, not about the discussion. After this vote, are you gonna also take a vote on Tammy's position? So we're gonna vote
Yes.
twice on two separate
Yes.
things?
To
Okay, so
find
that,
out kind of where people stand, because we may
Okay.
get different votes and then.
right, because I would, that would change my vote on the just Robert De Niro Way. if
Yes,
you're
and
gonna also vote
focus
on
on
Tammy.
just the question being asked, and I will put it positive since people are having trouble with negative, knowing full well that if it passes, it's going to go in the negative form because that's the only thing that makes sense.
Betty, I'm so sorry. Can I just jump in quickly before a vote? I mean, would we be able to come back to you with an alternate application? Would that provide some more clarity over the point of consideration?
And there are technicalities around that problem.
Okay,
Simply because the guidelines, if you read them, say, if you've been rejected, you can't come back for 3 years. So at that point, we're better off to withhold the vote and not activate it so that we don't put a 3-year time clock on you.
sure thing. So perhaps what if we did that? What if we withheld the vote and came back to you with an alternative application that's informed by the feedback we've received today?
That's why I said, do you want me to take the vote so that you can get us real numbers on it?
I mean, is this an official vote or like a straw poll? I don't know
I'm going to call it a straw poll so that it's not official. So I'm asking, how many people would be for co-naming Robert De Niro Way? Because I think that's easier to vote in the positive. Okay, so 2 people would support the co-name. How many people would not support the co-name?
And vote in favor of the resolution against, in other words.
Yes, but don't confuse people. And Pat, you can't vote. You're not on the committee. Sorry, you get to vote at full
No,
board.
but when it comes to full board, I'd vote against it.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, that would pass.
So let's call the question.
resolution where the people are is very much, they would not support Robert De Niro Way. Now, if it was changed to, as Tammy recommended, it would have to highlight first Tribeca Festival or Tribeca Film Festival, Robert De Niro, co-founder Robert De Niro. I mean, just to give Peter some guidance if he wants to come back next month to finalize this. How many people would vote for that, where the name is twofold and it has Tribeca Festival to kind of placehold? How many people would not vote for that?
Oh, let me take my hand on. Okay.
So these are the people who would not vote for the sign that included both. And Patrick, I didn't see your hand.
I didn't see your hand, Betty.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm torn on that.
I'm
one,
too
so
busy
probably
counting.
I'd be abstaining at the moment because I think the applicant has effectively agreed to just hold it for a bit, and that's where we should be headed. But I would abstain from that. Sorry.
You would
But this
abstain
is
though if it
showing-
came forward with that, which would still be
Yeah.
a negative vote then, because it's pretty
Yeah,
much
this is
split down the
showing that
middle.
he has actually less support for the dual name.
Yeah, which
That's
is sort
maybe
of
one more.
surprising and counter to what all was discussed earlier.
This
That's
is
why I
why I think
wanted
we
to get
should
an
vote
actual
on
hand
only
count.
what's before us. I think we should vote only on what's before us, and I think we should vote right now.
Well, I agree because I think that
Then-
double vote kind of pointed that out.
But then he can't come back.
Neither is going to win
Why not?
And if you
because
do an
then he
official
can't really
vote.
come back for 3 years.
Right.
But
But
he
Thinking it's going to move on to
Different
Christopher
request.
Marte.
So Betty, if that's the case, I would respectfully request that we not have a vote here and that we come back to you with an alternative application, if that's allowable.
You can withdraw your application for with intent to come back next month to finalize it. Peter, you can certainly do that if you'd like.
Okay. David, would you like to participate in this conversation by unmuting? I think you have the ability to do that.
Yes, this is here in the shadows listening. Kind of reading some of the responses, and obviously thank you everybody and for your time here. I know it's long. It did seem it did seem, as far as even if we came back with a festival leading, that it would still not get passed here. So
That vote indicated that.
yeah. So I think as far as, and this, you know, Peter and I have been working on this together. I think maybe, I don't know. I think if the loss is still like in the future, I think we would probably like to go ahead and still move forward with the request as is.
And you can do that and keep in mind the committee, although it would pass the resolution, as we already had, that they do not support. We don't know what full board's going to do, because again, look at how divided everyone was, you know, in their own minds with which way they were going to go on which vote. So, yeah, Patrick?
I just want to say on the question of this alternative, I think it's being kind of thrown at people at the last second, and so that's why I abstained. And I would suspect that those who said they wouldn't support it may not support it, not because they don't support the idea of some alternative, but they may not support that specific alternative, or they may have some sort of nuanced reservation about it. And so I do think it's in the applicant's best interests to ask that we wait another month. I don't think you have to formally withdraw the application. I don't think that's necessary. And we can make a motion to lay it on the table if we want to get all procedural about it. But I think just asking the applicant to come back next month and we'll revisit the issue. I can't say that's going to change the vote, but I think there's enough nuance in there that maybe people will have had some time to really think about what that alternative might look like.
I agree with what Patrick just said.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I want you to know that Patrick is one of our parliamentarians. So he's getting real formal that I would simply say
like
you
they want
can
us to
decide
vote,
to
though.
postpone or not. But nevertheless, since I have a divided opinion among the applicants, what would you choose to do? We will let you go either way.
Are you asking us, Betty?
Yes. Do you want to vote now or do you want to wait another month and think about it, decide if you want to make modifications, and then we'll take a vote then?
I think, and maybe having spoken originally, I think if there is some sense as far as receptiveness to, I don't want it to feel like we're just trying to ram something through. If there is some receptiveness as far as from the subcommittee here to continue the conversation, then I guess, I think it probably benefits everyone to pull back the application for the time being and then work to get on the calendar for next month, knowing that we are like working with sort of like I think the city deadline as far as July is when they do this sort of like batch of approvals for. So we just, we know that we're working under that. So we just want to make sure that we can still kind of like hit some of these deadlines that are coming up.
Yeah, you should be able to, but you can certainly let Christopher Marte's office know because they would be the ones managing the deadline in city council. So no, if you'd like to, and Onez, you can make sure it's on next month's agenda, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be a problem either for the coming back to committee. And if you'd like to work with the office and all of us with any of the ideas in the interim, but feel free to make this an ongoing dialogue.
And I have a question. This might be, we do have context as far as at the DOT. Just understanding kind of limitations of space and letter, I assume we could probably reach out to them to get a sense, just so if we come back to you with something, we know that it's something that is actionable and, could be, a reasonable, solution, and it's not something silly that ultimately they're like, we can't do that.
Yeah, no, Amish, would you suggest that either you want to work with them or should they just go straight to Lucian Reynolds? Because the office can then help you with the DOT and what regulations or limitations there might be that you'd have on the co-naming spacing.
I think both of us can work on it. You can just reach out to me and we can move on from there as needed.
Yeah, so by all means, use the people in the office on Nej and Lucian to help you with the DOT information and what your limitations are there. Because that was my question too.
Right. We're happy to do that, Betty. We'll make
Great.
that part of
Then
our next.
thank you. Sorry we couldn't come up with an answer as quickly enough for you, but
Oh, and if I can say real quick, thank you, everybody. I know you've put a lot of time into the guidelines, and we really wanted to make sure, in the request, we did want to respect that, and our hope and our goal was that we were in putting the request forward. And then also, I know it's taken a lot of everybody's evening, and also thank you, Peter, from our team, because you really were like the man up to bat for us. So I appreciate everybody's involvement.
No, I ditto what David said. Thank you all for your time, your consideration, and please know we respect your points of view and really appreciate the time to speak with you all tonight.
great. We'll stay in touch. See you next month.
All right. Sounds good,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, we can move on to the next agenda item. And if we go back to the slides, my memory is kind of scattered now. Open streets. And this is really just a notification. So it's relatively quickly. If you go to the next one, there are 3 of them that I want to mention. That doesn't mean this is all of them, but these are either renewals or new ones. And this one is an open street. And there used to be an open street there, Duane Street from Hudson to West Broadway. And the people who are going to be supervising this and requested it is Kehoe Restaurant. So I know it says K-I-O, but in fact it's K-H-E-Y-O. And there were no complaints when they had it before. So this is not news. And the dates, of course, would be through April 15th through the end of June. So it's not till the end of the year. And next, as I said, there are 3 of them. Peck Slip from Water Street to Pearl Street. And this one, Peck Slip School is the partner on this one. And again, you can see it is school hours during the week, which is not a surprise. And I'm going to guess they don't set up the barriers when they're school holidays. Anyway, and the final one is Stone Street, which again is not a surprise to anybody, from Hanover Square to Coenties Alley. And the partner here is Stone Street Community Association, and this has been an ongoing one as well. If anyone has comments, you can certainly make them, but the usual way of doing it, if you look online, these have already been, all 3 have been approved by the DOT, and all of them are actively on the Open Streets website as approved. What we'd really ask you to do is, if you find a problem, file a 311 complaint under Open Streets category. You can then send that report that you get in return to the office so they can track if there's significant problems and what they are with any of these particular open streets. And Mitch, what would you like to say? You're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Betty. I only wanted to comment on one because I'm personally familiar with that, the Duane Street between Hudson and West Broadway. And, but like I said, I'm not sure of the other 2. So I would be totally against it because of what I've seen. The rest, when the pandemic happened, it was definitely necessary because the restaurants, there's another restaurant next to the Keo restaurant. And besides the shed that they put up, there was like tables and chairs throughout the whole like a street,
Right,
like in the middle of the roadway. That has
keep in
gone.
mind, they're not asking us to opine in advance of approving it. This is approved. It has occurred in the past, and there were no real complaints when this very street
Well,
with this particular sponsor was there.
Okay, there might have not been any complaints, but what happened was that there's nobody in the street now. It's just up to the enclosed shed, and there's never been any cultural events because I read about that. That was one of the things. And across on the opposite side of the street was no parking from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And now what happens is, so people that needed to stop, people that just needed to park overnight or on the weekends for certain things, only placards now are going through the barriers and just like leaving their cars there with impunity because nobody else could do that. And also the other thing with the electric delivery people, I'm not talking about city bikes, but the electric delivery people racing up and down in and out of the barriers. So that part of Duane Street, it's empty at night and and late on the weekends. There's nothing happening there except for a couple of spots that are meters. And there's no across the street. There are no buildings. It's just like the side of a bank, which is on which is on West Broadway, and the restaurant is kind of is pulling everybody's leg over there because they
Right,
have.
Mitch, I know, but the point is, they have been approved. You
Okay.
can file complaints in real time for 311, because that's the feedback the DOT uses when they do renewals. I have spoken with Carrie, because I knew she may not be on when we got to this. Since she's with Duane Street Park on the next street, they had no problems with this at all either.
It doesn't affect them. But like I said, at 3, I mean, like I said, I don't have a car, but I've heard from a lot of people that, the placards are using that street to park the cars there with impunity. So it's not preventing cars from being parked on the street. It's just preventing regular people from doing the same things that the placards are now doing.
Encourage all those people to file 311 complaints. That's where the DOT gets the feedback. And there
Okay.
they can say that their concern is about the placards or whatever it is that their
Sounds
concern
like we
is.
need some citizen enforcement legislation.
Right, no, right, but that
Comes up later.
Right,
Thank you.
you're 100% correct, but that's not going to happen in real life because it hasn't happened in the last 3 decades. But I wish it would be. But the thing is, the fact that the placards are there are showing that having cars parked across the street from the restaurants is not impacting anything because there's no more activity in the street.
No, placards are placards. I mean, they park on the sidewalk, so to say.
No, right, but what I'm
because
saying
we
is that
leave them on the sidewalks, they're not impeding
yeah,
pedestrians.
but they're
Yeah.
parking in the legal spaces that used to be after 6 p.m. So what I'm saying is that having
It's a placard problem.
right, but having what I'm saying is it's a placard problem, but it's also showing that a regular car parking there overnight is not causing any harm to the restaurant.
Placards are going to do what they're going to do, and if there's no
Okay.
enforcement,
Betty,
that's been our challenge. Sorry.
And it's not a bike lane, just to
move
let
on.
everybody know, it's not hurting any bicyclists. It's because that's not a bike lane.
Yeah, no, I understand the frustration. I live in Placard City over here.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to share that. Thank you. That's the
Yeah,
only.
tell people again to file a complaint with 311 when they see a
Yeah.
problem. So we can
Okay.
get some data behind it. Mobility plans. This is a little bit, I want to explain what it is and why I'm even asking to work on this, because I think it's important. So why ask for one? In January, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, so this has gotten a lot more news in general, made a decision finally at the federal level that we need to consider bikers and walkers, not just drivers, when looking at streets. And that was groundbreaking for our federal. So parking lots and even mass transit stops is not enough information when you're talking about a location. Transit agencies, they suggest, should think of themselves as mobility agencies. This is the new view now being put out at the national level. The number of cyclists and people using other means of micro transportation, like the stand-up scooters, continue to increase. So they need to increase infrastructure to encourage and accommodate this. I bring this up because we live in a very congested neighborhood. Mass transportation options in our district include ferries at Pier 15, Pier 11, and in Battery Park City. We have the Staten Island ferry. We have we have multiple bus routes. We have multiple subway lines. We have the PATH trains. I mean, this is covering all of these things, as well as the obvious city bike, as well as accommodating private bicycles. We also have to consider things like the charter buses and drop-offs for for-hire vehicles and private cars. If you recall, I kept writing down things that we've dealt with in this committee. If you remember when the Performing Arts Center came before us, you know, those kinds of centers, these are real issues. You have large flows of people in these larger venues. How are they going to get there? And do we have the signage out on the streets to organize it so it make it happen? And for pedestrian mobility, is there adequate space available, and is it maintained during the times when you're attracting people and dismissing them from your venues? Next. So this is what got me thinking about why we need to have them, and why also the goals would be to request mobility plans. And I'm not talking about a formal report, but rather the ability to answer questions about different forms of mobility being planned or expected, so we can educate and influence groups like these large venues that bring requests to CB1 to think about mobility options and the needs that are near them, such as when we get a street activity permit. You heard me talk before about with Bike New York, you know, it's look at all the people who come to do the 5-borough bike tour. How are they going to get here? Luckily, they come in bikes, and they did a wonderful job on their website, which you're going to see later, to really give guidance to people how to get here without creating havoc in our streets. Also to reduce congestion and pollution from traffic by having businesses promote and accommodate all available mobility options to and from their locations. And I'm going to show you some examples that are out there and why they're pretty clearly inadequate at this time. Go back just for one more second. Yeah, improving curb management, because if we want DOT signage in advance, that would help us with promoting people coming to us to think about it, and improving information and infrastructure in advance of the tolling program, because we want to really give people an option since we will be part of the tolling area. Next. So some people, the only thing being asked, and I'm going to be talking to Susan Cole soon, but licensure committee is the only one that really consistently asks for traffic studies. But if you go back to our district budget, we have and still ask for traffic studies. So the real question is, what value are they? That's a real question. The problem with traffic studies, are they appropriate for the problem? A single business address in our district. That's not what they were intended for. They were set up for large developments coming in with roads and movements. They weren't set up for a single location. Does it move the focus, and this is one of the complaints people have, focused from promoting mobility options and curb management to sending everything back to just looking at the vehicles and the congestion? Are we losing focus of the broad spectrum? What can a single business owner do with the traffic study findings? Even if they're sincere, what does it mean and how would it fix anything? Their reliability has been questioned. This was kind of interesting. As a methods and means of interpretation, I have not been backed by studies that have adequate statistical analyses or peer review. It's really just opinion pieces. And even if traffic studies were meant to analyze the impact of a single business, which they're not, and the professionals all agree that's true, they're also not meant to analyze curb management or other modes of mobility that are needed and the infrastructure to support them. So there are lots of problems when people ask for a traffic study and think they're covering the real problems. That's why I'm trying to introduce the idea of mobility plans and studies, but mostly plans. So should we have some guidance that we can give when people come before us, such as when the Performing Arts Center came forward to ask for, they were asking actually for some street sign changes. They wanted to remember an unloading area. Sometimes they'll come asking for a bus parking or unloading area. Those kinds of signs are what I'm talking about, not street signs. Also, we want to start to encourage places to broaden their view of what the importance in their getting here information should include, because we need to influence it, and you'll see why soon. We really want, and I'm not talking about, we can't enforce anything. This is about informing applicants about street activity permits, to ask for street activity permits and street sign changes. That's all this committee really can do anyway. Hopefully we'll get licensure and others to kind of buy into the idea. But we can't ask them about the plans they have to address, because historically we haven't, but you'll see what Bike New York has done. Some of the activities that come here are very large number of people. How should the information plan be implemented so they can guide the public? Not looking to be prescriptive. I'm really talking about asking enough questions to get them thinking, to tell us how they're going to address the issue for their particular location, because they're all going to have different needs. Okay, so let's go on to look at some of the websites, and I think that'll make it more obvious what the issue is. This is from Bike New York, and it's specifically for the 5-borough bike tour for 2023. And there are 2 slides because they have so much information in their getting there section. And most groups would not need to be this detailed. They are, how do you bring a bicycle with you? And there are a lot more regulations. Hence, they're taking those on. But you'll notice they're dealing with the subways, the Long Island Railroad, and how to get there and what stop to take, the New York City Ferry, the New York Waterway, the subways. I mean, they cover lots of different modes, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. And again, they don't have to worry about parking because nobody's staying put, they're going on a bike tour. So that's a need they don't legitimately have, and that's reasonable. Next. This one, I looked at the rooftop for Pier 17, which there are lots of complaints about, and they were asked for a traffic study. But in fact, if you look at what they have in their getting here section, in terms of mobility, they say it's accessible by train, a ferry, bus, or car. No information about the stops, no information about much of anything, and they miss a bunch of things like bikes and scooters and storage. So this is pretty as limited as it gets. Next one. This is Brookfield Place, and what they have in their getting there section is a little bit more fleshed out. So they'll have, for instance, the exact trains on the subway and which stop to get off, which is very helpful and does take up a lot of space. Parking, they give a specific location, some link to a website that has parking. You'll see different things. They talk about coming from New Jersey, so they address the path as well as the ferries coming to Brookfield. So again, this is a much broader approach, but not all inclusive. They could still add a little bit more, of a few more options. But I wanted to point, this one's good at pointing out how sketchy the detail can be. It doesn't need to take up volumes of space on a website. Hudson River Park, for instance, if you go to them, they really are pretty short on it. They include buses, which you notice the others don't even talk about buses. But when you get to buses or subway stops, and they give at least subway lines, they don't tell you where to get off. So it still leaves visitors and other people with having to do a lot of research for themselves to get there. So this could be improved a little bit. Next one, because they have parking on Pier 40. I don't want to, they don't mention parking there, but they do within their website talk about a parking for those who come by car. But no real accommodation for anything else. And it's interesting because they're on the Greenway. They don't even mention bikes at all. But anyway. Next one. We might be, and this is the Performing Arts Center. And this is a work in progress. And even this was new when I captured this. This is very much a work in progress. Nice, because notice they talk about at the corner of Fulton and Greenwich Streets. So they telegraph more information about where they are than just an address. As well as being on the World Trade Center campus. So they give people like tourists a much better sense of where they are for their planning. easily accessed by 13 subway lines, ferries, and PATH trains. They start to mention some of the options, but they don't give specifics about any of them. So they could do a little bit of work here. They don't talk about bikes. They don't talk about how they'd accommodate the parking of those scooters or bikes. They don't really talk, on their website aren't necessarily going to talk about buses. That's a separate. So keep in mind what would be in getting there isn't as much as we need to know, because if we want signs to come out of here, such as for drop-offs, for vehicle drop-offs, as well as bus drop-offs or parking, we need to have them think about that information so they can come to us to ask for it. So next, I want to get a little bit of feedback in general. What do people think about the need for and the idea of developing as a committee a mobility plans, which are really questions to put forward to people who come to us asking for something. Those are the only people we can influence at all. And nobody has any ideas. If you want help with it, this would be asking such as, and not all things apply to all people. And so it does say, it would say, only respond to those that apply to you, or explain why they don't apply to you anyway. But how would the venue encourage or provide information about mass transportation options, including subway, bus, ferry, city bike locations near the venue? The location and management of for-hire and private vehicle drop-off pickup spots with the days and hours, which in fact the PAC did. Location of parking and drop-off pickup areas for charter buses, so not just passenger drop-offs, but also the buses. Parking accommodation for privately owned bicycles and e-scooters, because we really don't need them cluttering up the area without being accommodated, and the people arriving on them don't want to just desert them either. So want people to think about that. Locations for Revel or Lime mopeds. And so we can direct patrons to areas where they could drop them off when they come, rather than just deserting them in all kinds of weird locations. Maintenance for adequate pedestrian mobility space around the venue. Have they accommodated for that, and have their staff keeping that in mind? The volume, frequency, and anticipated times and location of deliveries, because I know the large venue group already wants to know this, so traffic can be understood and its impact. And any other ideas? I'm interested in getting a general conversation, and I will start. You can see the way mine is organized here. Mimi, then Detta, then Patrick, Cody, and then Eric.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together. It's really detailed. I think, so I ride a bicycle, and I just Google it. So yeah, I don't, I think the pickup and drop off is important, and I think that venues should definitely tell the transportation providers about that, but I feel like we could, maybe work with Uber, like how they did with the airport, to have a space where people would specifically go for like larger venues, etc. The way that it is at the airport, how the
Well, that is the request, and that is what PAC, the Performing Arts Center, did. That's exactly what we voted on, with the drop-off area, and keeping in mind private vehicles can also use it. And we're going to get to unloading zones in a minute, because those rules are in the process of changing as well. As far as the bikes, I understand you're saying like City Bike you can look at. I can tell you what some websites did was they just put the link to City Bike. Because again, keep in mind there are tourists who really don't know what some of the options are. But also I want them to think about it in terms of the education. If they say, you know what, we don't have any City Bike docks near our location, and we're a large venue with moving lots of people. I want them to think about it in their planning.
Okay, yeah, because I just, any location that I ride my bicycle to, which is not a City Bike, I just Google directions to get there and then go there. But I also look at the New York City bicycle map.
Right, but where do you, and that's a case where there isn't much a venue could do. What I was going to ask the people at the PAC to do was have they looked at putting in something like an uni pod where there's secure parking for scooters and bicycles to get them together in one location and secure
Yeah.
so that their patrons are comfortable? They're
I'd like to
secure.
I'd like to note that the Revel and Lime mopeds, I don't think that we're going to be able to do anything to prevent those from being left all willy-nilly in random places. In every city that I've visited and every city that I've lived to that have had similar programs, they're just kind of, sometimes they're thrown in the river. So I don't know that we'll ever be able to solve that problem.
No, I don't think so either, but if they could tell us that they have for instance, I know there are drop-off areas in my neighborhood. If they find they don't have any, and then they later find they would like to have them because they're finding them deserted and people are complaining to them, it's more managing the problem and getting a handle on what the issues are, making them aware, and then knowing to come to us if they need some assistance with smoothing out problems if they experience them.
I gotcha. Is it at all, like, as like a far out there idea, is it at all possible to work with Google to better accommodate these issues that we have?
And that might be the next step. That's why I want to see where it goes, and that very well could be. And keep in mind, like I said, with City Bike, some just link to something such as a City Bike site or to a parking information site. It can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a big listing and job. Yeah, thank you. And keep thinking about it because we're going to work on this. Detta? Are you muted? Detta, don't hear you.
Yeah, okay, I'm unmuted now, right? My mic is a little funny though. I just wanted to thank you so much for all the research you did, because I'd never realized about traffic studies, what they're meant for and what they're not meant for, and the value that they bring or don't bring. And that was really eye-opening to me. And I like being educated about that. And I really like to focus just in general on, instead of a traffic study for a business, but really having that business think about exactly these things that you're saying they should think about, really giving clear directions on how to get there and thinking through all the methods that somebody can get there. I think that would be fantastic if we can do start encouraging that in businesses, because there have been times when, for whatever reason, Google is sometimes wrong. Oh, but when I've been trying to figure out how to get to a hotel that might be, say, Hoboken or Jersey City, and the hotel gives no information, and Google sends me on some weird route that is not what I would do. So I do think, I mean, we're talking about New York fences, but yeah, to provide, I like everything about the direction that you're taking this conversation.
Yeah, we'll later have to think about, and hope maybe somebody in future speaking will mention, how do we influence more groups? We as a transportation committee can have limited input. Something like licensing can have a much bigger, because they control liquor licenses.
Right, because really
yes.
having a large venue provide how to get there is really more important than some sort of traffic study that might be really irrelevant or wrong, or just not provide anything useful.
Yes, and so take them in the direction that even the US government is moving, in terms of how the professionals are thinking about it, and it's mobility, not traffic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's hear Patrick, and then Cody, then Eric.
Thanks, Betty. And I echo what Detta said. I applaud you for sort of putting this together. I've been saying for a long time that traffic studies are pretty limited. And, you know, when we presented the FIDA Neighborhood Association's Make Way for Lower Manhattan plan, the idea was that it wouldn't be just a traffic study, because counting cars just isn't enough. You have to understand more holistically how pedestrians and other sidewalk impediments all compete with each other. And so I would, you know, I think this is more expansive than just licensing committee, for example. So I could see a value to this in the land use and zoning committee, right? So we sit on the community advisory council for the 5 World Trade site. And one of the things we were able to do is to convince the Empire State Development Corp and the developers of that site to think about their pedestrian mobility specifically around the site and on their sidewalks. And so that included, how are you going to manage garbage? How are you going to manage move-ins and move-outs? How are you going to manage loading and unloading? And they were really thoughtful about it in their initial plans. They came back to us and said, well, we're going to containerize garbage all inside, so we never touch the streets. Our move-ins and move-outs are going to happen on, you know, whatever days, but they're going to be completely within particular loading days. So I think there are a lot of other applications where these mobility studies can be very helpful in our land use and zoning committee used to be called the planning committee. That's really kind of what I'm thinking of is in the context of planning for not just large venues, but for commercial development and residential development, particularly in this mixed use community district. Starting to think in terms of mobility study and not traffic study, not counting cars, but really about all the competing uses on the sidewalks and the streets is really the way to go. So I really applaud you for getting this conversation going and changing. If it does nothing else, at least it changes the conversation and it makes people think about those additional data points as they're planning developments or planning large venues or planning a small business, whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think that is a direction that we need to move. The contribution the Transportation Committee can make is more these various means of transportation in and out of our district, as well as trying to stop the congestion. And that means bicycles where they shouldn't be, stand-up scooters where they shouldn't be, getting some curb access. But as you said, land use is going to be a little bit different, and large venues for liquor licenses are more the movement of vehicles in and out, but we have street festivals, which also the movement of people in and out. So there's overlapping, and maybe we can eventually move to getting a CB1. But I want to get at least started in my committee because that's something I can do. And then I'd be very happy to have some of the other chairs, which is why I'm going to be talking to Susan Cole soon about this as well, to see what their concerns would be from her committee perspective. So thank you, and yeah, we'll work on this in the future. We'll get this going. Cody, Eric, and then Tricia.
I'll be brief. I was just going to, applaud to the note about parking accommodations for privately owned bicycles and e-scooters, because oftentimes I arrive at a place and there's not even a bike rack. It's as if some buildings are hostile to bike racks. And so, it would just encourage more folks to ride a bike and to use alternative forms of transportation if they thought, there were pods or safe spaces, that their property will be safe. So even if this gets that conversation happening and, something for businesses and venues to consider in their planning, that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what the conversation has been. And also that they know they can come to this committee to ask for, because DOT has some bike racks and things that we would handle, but also we can encourage them to look at UNI and some of the other things they might do. So yeah, no, I think we need to start the conversation. And if we're really, as a community board, going to be pushing for good preparation for congestion pricing alternatives, it behooves us to start working on it soon to make them good alternatives. So thank you. We will keep working. Eric, and then Tricia, and then Deb will get back to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you expanded the scope of what should be considered, especially in Lower Manhattan. How there are so many other options that most people will use: bicycles, walking, subway, buses. But I don't want to omit. We still have to. It says parking accommodations for privately owned bikes. And e-scooters. We should still mention cars, automobiles there, right?
It does. It says location and management of for-hire private vehicle. Oh, wait a second. There's a drop-off pickup for those would also accommodate private vehicles. But in terms of parking, it says location of parking and drop-off I'll check it again, but it should say bikes and scooters as well as vehicles. So I thought
Great,
that
'cause
was
some
included.
people
I'll
will
make sure
still,
it is.
thank you, because some people will take their own privately owned vehicle just because maybe
Oh,
they
no
don't have
question.
the option. Yes. And then I this is anecdotal where I think people's travel plans do vary depending on the weather. For example, if there's snow or rain, I think there will be a lower percentage of people taking their bicycle. So I'm just saying that should, I don't, that may be something to consider. The weather, especially if, let's say, if an event is during the winter months, there may be less people be willing to bike or take their e-scooter.
Yeah, no, that would hold for us with street activities, which are on a specific day for their SAPO permit. For large venues with a liquor license, they're going to have the whole spectrum, 365 days a year. So,
Okay. Thank you.
like I said, the needs are going to change a little bit by what it is. Tricia?
I too want to thank you, Betty. This is fantastic. I think long overdue. Of course, schools, which is always my, eagle eye, I think are completely different than this. And it's one of the reasons I was concerned about it being part, the traffic studies for schools being part of transportation, because what we found is that there's a total disconnect. I think that the way that they have traditionally been done has never met the needs, at least in my 15 years here, never met the needs of our opening schools. And so, I guess I would just, it's actually irrelevant to your presentation in a way. It actually has clearly defined that it needs to be separate. But I think that after going through what we just did at Trinity Place School, where we weren't able to use pretty much anything from the traffic study, and we waited 10 months for it, longer actually, and then it turned out to be not relevant. I think that I just want to go on the record for saying that I don't think we'll be opening another elementary school here for some time, maybe in my lifetime on the board. But I just want to go on the record for saying that I feel as though we need a different approach for analyzing traffic around opening schools. We also need a safety plan to be in place in advance of the school opening that I also think the DOT should be part of. And I do think that NYPD school safety should be collaborating with them, in my opinion, on school traffic studies and on school safety studies. So,
Tricia, I have something for you later.
Okay, great.
There's going to be an announcement, as I'll show you, we're going to have in my updates and things. There was a large federal grant that went to the DOT to do this very thing. And so you may want to look at that on your committee to say that you want to have a resolution to ask the DOT or bring it to here for shared to address the school issue within their toolbox.
Thank you very much. I will do just that.
You'll see the project. So if hands are still up or up newly, but Eric and then Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my hand before.
That's fine. And Cody put his hand down too.
Me
So let's
too,
go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll go on to the next, because some of these things are going to address issues people have brought up. Everybody think about these and ideas to what to put together a document that we will ask of people who come to us, and any other ideas of people we could address within our committee. And I will continue to talk to people in other committees about how this same issue might be adapted for their needs. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, news and updates. This is where we are. The MTA has pushed back congestion pricing to the second quarter of 2024. So who knows if it'll start then, but so people know it's pushed back to there. The update next. For those people who, like me, are big fans of Train Daddy here, he is coming back to New York, and he's only given a suggestion of what he's being talked about. But Andy Byford is just amazing. And now that he's resigned as head of the London Transit Authority, really glad he's coming back to New York City. Next, the fact that the MTA is pushing ahead with starting plans for stroller-only sections on 1,000 buses and routes across the city is good news. for all the people who've been challenged by moving their child. So that'll be coming. And next announcements, yeah, the wider turnstiles are coming, which is kind of interesting because like everything from the American with Disabilities Act, they do it because of the law. But if you're carrying a Christmas tree, if you're walking on crutches, if you have a stroller, you're going to really appreciate this too as they get installed. I think they're starting with Queens and Brooklyn, so I wouldn't expect them soon in Manhattan. But anyway, they are going to start installing them for the first time. So you don't have to prop open the others and have all the fare jumpers go through that they worry about, is what they claim is the impetus for doing this. Next. Oh, yeah, this guy's from Street Blog. He's one of the authors there. But kind of interesting that they asked about why aren't they using all-door boarding on buses? And the answer was because Omni use on the bus is still only 20%, which surprised me just how rarely Omni is being used. And that is what stops them from doing all door boarding. They have to use Omni to do it. Next, this is the loading zones. This could be good news for us as a district. It was being heard on February 7th. I looked on the New York City rules and they have not posted yet what happened on the 7th. I'm going to guess they probably approved it, but I don't have verification yet. If you go to the next one, you can see the, which is such good news. It's consistent with one of our resolutions. Go to the next. Yeah, the proposed rule is going to look at loading only zones. No, don't skip another one. Go back. Go back one slide. Thanks. The loading only zones, they're kind of putting a bunch of them together so that we won't necessarily have neighborhood loading zones, commercial loading zones. The DOT is looking at kind of overhauling unloading zones. And it's going to be expeditious pickup and drop off of goods and passengers by commercial vehicles, for hire vehicles, and personal vehicles. So I'd said before with the mobility study, some of these things are in the process of changing, but the same signage will accommodate all of these groups for drop off and pickup. The signage will have a set time limit that the vehicle can utilize the space. So for instance, you're probably not going to have a moving van that's going to need a few hours, 15 minutes, because they really want in this location only drop off of people because it's a large venue, for instance. Vehicles displaying agency, this is the good news, agencies authorized or single-use permits, placards, or city-owned vehicles will be prohibited from utilizing the dedicated space in loading zones. This could open it up to us being able to, as a district, to actually have loading zones. So this is good news, and hopefully next. Oh, this was, yeah, this is Mitch had said they're not going to have that law passed. In fact, this was the citizen reporting law that they're referring to, that 501, to remind people. This was parking in bike lanes, bus lanes, crosswalks, that piece of legislation. And over 50% of city council members had signed on as co-sponsors. But it was really amazing that it just didn't move, and it didn't move. And it appears to be the people in charge didn't want to bring it up to a vote. So there have very recently been changes made. They've gotten rid of the 25% kickback to the person who is the complainant or reporter. So that's been removed. So Mitch can cheer for that one. They have also changed it where now the people who have to go take a short course to be able to be qualified reporters of these various infractions. And there are a few other rule changes that are going into the law, and it should be voted on soon. But it hasn't been voted on yet, but like I said, it's going to pass because over 50% of the members are co-sponsors of the bill. Next.
I think it specifies you have to have a license or a state ID or a city ID also to be able to be a reporter.
Yes, and it's also clarified that you can't report someone if there's someone in the driver's seat. So they've kind of defined what parking is versus standing. So there are a bunch of clarifications like that, and we'll do more as they come towards a vote. anyway, to make it, we didn't have a lot of snow and a lot of plowing this year, but you see their advertising. The difference between reporting a pothole and reporting a cave-in, are different, and they're asking people to be specific about those complaints you have on your street. Otherwise, do make them, just make them correctly to 311. Next. Oh, this was very funny. In Mumbai, this was posted by CheckPeds. This person's from CB4. They actually they got so tired of horn honking, they should put this around the Holland Tunnel. That if they have a decibel reader, and if it gets above a certain decibel, the stoplight starts on 0 again for the red light, and the red light just stays on and on and on until the honking stops. So anyway, for those who've been asking about the ghost plates, do all different things that have happened, scraping it off, writing over them, covering them, doing all kinds of things. Interesting that the NYPD will not respond to a FOIL request asking them about what they're doing with cops that debase their plates. But next, because so many of them are found around police stations. What was kind of interesting is that they have now reported that these ghost cars, 7% of cars on New York City streets that have speed or red light cameras are unidentifiable cars. And that's up from 4% a year ago. So the number of ghost cars is really increasing. And I expect with this congestion pricing, it'll even go even higher. So this issue is going to be in the news for a while. Next, the NYPD has changed some of their vehicles. And again, they keep getting bigger and bigger. But kind of interesting, there is a URL, there's a code on them now, QR code that you can scan to do reporting versus 311. But interesting, they've said they got the same problems they had from doing 311 reporting, so don't expect great things. Canal Street, yes, there was a movement by the NYPD to clear the streets. I don't know if it stayed that way, but kind of interesting that they posted it. Next. Oh, this is a safety alert to pedestrians, because this also came out of the national meeting. Electric batteries, as we get more and more electric cars, and they've now said the number has doubled in the last year, and they're expecting it as the infrastructure gets better to explode, really explode. But electric batteries add hundreds to thousands of pounds to the weight of a vehicle. This increases the risk of greater injury or death, even at low speeds, with other vehicles that are the same size. So don't let that be misleading to you. Those cars are heavier than their size might indicate if you're using gas vehicles as kind of your indicator of how heavy it must be. Electric cars also can reach speeds of 40 to 60 miles per hour within an intersection. So for those of us who casually cross intersections on red lights, beware, because you're going to have less time to react, and the impact force is going to be a lot heavier because they are moving at a much faster speed in a much shorter distance. And electric engines are silent, so they can startle pedestrians, especially those with vision limitations. And some car manufacturers are looking at creating sounds that go with the vehicle, which may be a negative we have to deal with later. At the public safety notice. At that national convention, the MTA Bridge and Tunnel released the fact that congestion pricing is now that they use on their bridges and traffic, not the central business district congestion, but the use of bridges and tunnels, and they found that it no longer works for them because there's less demand to come downtown during traditional business hours. But busiest hours are now earlier in the afternoon, the conventional rush hour, and people are commuting fewer days a week because they have more work flexibility. Peak hours are getting longer and longer, however, because the needs have changed. So the MTA is still struggling to figure out how to adjust their tolling to address these changes in travel behaviors. And for those who follow buses and others, there was recently a court hearing that came out because the unions came forward and said, you can't change our bus drivers and subway drivers' rules, work hours, because they have contracts and they don't want to just work different hours. So keep in mind, the MTA is struggling with that because they have their providers don't really want to change their hours from the classic, and yet the need from the user is different hours. So that's going to be an ongoing saga as well. Next. This is for you, Tricia. This was an announcement that was made for safe streets and roads, and this is a grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And if you go to the next one, this was a grant to the to the New York City Department of Transportation. It was for 31 point something million, 21.4 million. So it is significant. It is focused on a complete street designed for Delancey Street, which of course isn't us. But if you look at it, this same grant also requests that they want to develop a pedestrian model and micro-mobility planning toolkit that will address the emergent safety risks. So that this is getting too small. I'm getting too tired. Risks in a systematic way. So the DOT is seriously going to look at these mobility rules. And so I expect this changing. And so Tricia, if you'd like to go after some of this and ask them, was they're developing this toolbox to keep the schools in mind too? That might be somewhere to go. Yeah, the weird Super Bowl, they say that they had record number of rides in driverless cars on Super Bowl weekend. So yes, this is expanding. This is in fact in Phoenix, but Los Angeles and San Francisco both have driverless cars now on the road. And next, yes, this is what I told Bike New York we would be talking about too. They brought this up. You can by all means contact if you have a bike that you can donate, because Bike New York is giving them out to immigrants. They're refinishing them and giving them back to immigrants. So I encourage people, if you have a bike you want to get rid of, to consider this option. And next. And I know that some of the schools have gotten this too. The DOT is running a not a competition, but they're going to give out some prizes for students from K to 12, grade 12, who want to put together a video talking about school safety on the roads around the schools. So thank you. I want to encourage people for competition. And future agenda items, I'll go on to discussion because we're getting kind of late and the rest doesn't matter as much. It's other issues that are coming up in legislation. But anybody have anything they want to say? Yeah, electricity, we're gonna have to deal with that on the sidewalks. Well, the showing of no hands, I'm gonna, Joel Grayson in the attendees, if you'd like to unmute and hear what Joel has to say.
You're free to unmute.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's great to be on here as a panelist. I wanted to bring up an issue at the intersection of Vesey and Park Row and Broadway, Vesey, and Street and Park Row. If I could present. Okay, perfect.
Not today.
Here we go. So my dad and I have gone across this intersection.
Yeah, we're not going to entertain it tonight. If you'd like it to go on to next month's agenda,
Sure.
why don't you tell us briefly, kind of summarize what is the problem?
Yes. So the problem is that we've seen 2 crashes ourselves, and looking at New York City Crasher, I've also seen a number of crashes here. It's not just unique to this street, but I think one easy solution would be to add posts just in the center here, because cars, from their perspective, this looks like it's part of the road, the triangle in between. And so I think some visual distinction could help reduce the number of crashes. But I'm happy to talk about it more next time.
Yeah, no, think about it, because and what I can tell you, the DOT wants to hear from us. Not that we never give them solutions, but really flesh out the problem. And you can communicate with me, Anej, in the office. Anej can get you in contact with my email. for laying out really what the problem is that has to be addressed. And it sounds like the markings are either confusing, not clear. Then there can certainly be a suggestion of something that might work, something like that. But being really prescriptive is not appreciated by the DOT, so don't put a lot of effort into that other than use it as example. Focus heavily on defining the problem. When did it
Okay.
occur? Why did it occur? What does it look like?
And I'm relatively new to this, so okay, thank you.
That's
I
why
will.
I'll work with you during the month. You can reach out to me and we'll try to give you some guidance.
Excellent. And how should I reach out to you?
I just say,
I just put my email address in the chat. You can reach out to me directly.
if Dr. Anej is in the CB1 office and is the representative of the office on this committee, she can get you in touch. She can give out my email. You can contact me directly as well. So between the two of us, we can probably guide you with any questions you have.
Thank you. Okay.
Sure, no problem. And thank you for hanging on and bringing that up.
Yeah, of course.
Jenna, anything you want to say to close?
I was just piggybacking off of your report. The change that the MTA was trying to make but couldn't make because of the union was that they wanted to have slightly less service Monday and Friday and slightly more service Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, so we're going to have to see this playing out. So for those who are reading it and kind of confused, there are all these factors working that decision makers can't just do whatever they want. There are issues they have to deal with to get it done. So with that, I thank you all and think about these things, and I'll see you at full board if I'm not on another committee with you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Good night.